Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Colton, and in today's video, I want to talk about the zine that I recently created, why I created it, why you might be interested in creating one for yourself, and what the process looked like for me to do so. So the zine I created is called Sugar Junkie, and it is a vibrant, colorful book of candy still life photography that was really about rediscovering my own passion, my inspiration, and my own imagination. And it was really important to me series-wide that I have a goal in mind for tangible, real-life methods for putting this artwork out into the world. And so on one hand, I submitted to some galleries, got my work into galleries, got to go through the whole process of framing and putting these images together into tangible forms. But also the zine was a big part of that too, and getting to put these images into one concise book and have that theme kind of go across all the images and have that be tangible, exist in the real world. So I think that's a big reason why I did it, and I think that's probably a primary reason why some of you might want to create a zine, is that you're making art, you're doing photography, you're getting all these images, you're building a body of work, and maybe historically you've shared those out on social media or online, but you want to take that step and start making real life things with your art and putting that artwork out into the real world. So that's definitely a huge benefit to creating a zine. I think another reason why you might be interested in creating a zine is that it forces you to look at your own body of work with a different eye, a different mindset. It's looking at that body of work and thinking, how do these images correlate to one another? How are they connected? What's maybe the story or the narrative in these images? Or even if it's not a story, it's not a narrative, what is the theme that binds these together? And what am I trying to do or say with my work? That sort of self-reflection doesn't always just happen on its own. Sometimes it happens because we have a need to look at our work in that way. And maybe the zine, knowing that you need something to tie the images together in the zine, will force you to look at your work like that. Another element is that you may find some images that you're really into in your own body of work, and you say, hey, I want to take that and expand on it. I want to make more images like that. I want to do a series on that. And so it can kind of launch into creating a whole new, sort of spin-off body of work that's related to a certain subject matter or style or whatever it may be that you're interested in. So it can kind of drive you to focus your photography or your artwork on a specific subject or specific story. Okay, so we've talked about why I chose to create a zine. We've talked about why you might be interested in creating a zine. I would imagine if you're watching this video, you already started with at least a little bit of interest in making a zine. And look, there's about 1 million videos online that will show you how to create a zine or give you different ideas for how to do so. And this is no different than any of those, other than it's probably not as good as any of those. But I want to share how I created my zine, and through that maybe give you some inspiration or some ideas for how to create your own zine as well. So for me, this sort of came along in stages, and really the first stage was just identifying that, hey, I want to make something tangible, and I want to do that through a newer series. I don't want to just go back and look at my old work and put something together. I want to create something new, knowing that there is a sort of end result that I'm looking for. And so I looked at some of the different series that I was actively working on, and I really debated, which one do I want to do a zine on? And it kind of came down to the candy art series on one hand, as far as something kind of new and fun and exciting. But then there was also the carnival long exposures that I had been doing for many years and really felt like I had always wanted to put those into a zine. but maybe there weren't quite enough images, a little bit harder to collect those images. There was also an idea of maybe doing a portrait series, and I had already kind of played around with experimenting and doing something like that. But ultimately, I chose the candy art series, and I sort of built an idea that I would develop this candy art series and start submitting that series to different galleries, and at the same time start framing artwork, putting it together in tangible form, and then the zine would be a part of that larger sort of scope. So a lot of these were tied together for me. They don't necessarily have to be for you. That's just the direction that I went. So then kind of stage 2, after I decided I want to make a zine, I want to do it on this particular series, was then to really map out what is the timeline of doing this? What are some of the due dates that I might need to hit in order to be successful? You know, for me, I was looking at working on this for the better part of a year, at least 8 months. And things can sometimes, you know, sort of slide under the cracks or be forgotten in that time. You know, you might start to think, well, I've got so much time, I can delay and procrastinate. And so I really wanted to have a strong timeline of when I would actually hit these different parts of the project. So some of the things that went into a timeline were time allocated for me to just create new images and really build up a strong amount of photos that I could source for this zine. Another of that was having in place either a graphic designer to help me or knowing which tools I was going to use to create the design myself. Another deadline was knowing which publisher I was going to use for the actual printing of the book. A deadline for having the design ready, a deadline for sending that design to the publisher, and really a deadline at the end of it all to say, this is when I have to have these books back in my hand. And so that really helped me to see what the process would be, what kinds of things I needed to accomplish along the way, and kept me on track knowing that, hey, I can't delay. I need to get these things done. So having a timeline in place was really critical, at least for me. And then really the next stage was shooting the photographs. I already had some of that series already shot, but I needed a lot more in order to be able to put a whole zine together. And again, as I've alluded to before, I really wanted to have a lot more images than I could actually fit into the zine, because I knew that would then give me the opportunity to be very picky about which images made the final cut and which ended up on the, so to speak, cutting room floor. And I wanted to have as many images because I also really wanted to kind of stress and have a hard time picking the images. I wanted to know that there were going to be images that didn't make it into the zine that were really, really good, because that told me then that the ones that did make it into the zine were the absolute best images that I had. And truly, if these other images were good, there would be other opportunities to share those out as well. So that next stage was really shooting the images and then going through and kind of picking out which ones would actually make it into the zine. Now, the next stage was to identify what publisher I was going to use for the printing and get some quotes from different publishers and really settle on one specific. And then also to figure out who was going to help design the zine, or if I was going to do it, what tools I would use in order to accomplish it. So for me, I ended up going with Canva for designing the zine. I definitely talked to some different graphic designers, but it ultimately was going to be too expensive for what I was trying to achieve. So I did go the route of doing it myself, which was not ideal. I definitely wanted to partner with someone who had much more skill in the design aspect and maybe in a way kind of make it a collaboration. But I ended up going it my own way, and I learned a lot. For me, I used Canva as the tool for designing the layout of the zine. And, you know, in a large part, it was accessible, it was free to use. Those were big selling points for me. I will say it's a good tool. It's maybe not the best tool. I definitely struggled with figuring out how to do the layout correct. Never could quite figure out how to do like one image across multiple pages. And I also oddly could not get the spine to work with Canva. Now, those might be limitations of Canva. They also could definitely be limitations of me and just user error because fun fact about me, I'm dumb, right? I've said it before, I'll say it again. So I can't put the blame totally on Canva, but that was definitely something that I ran into when designing the zine. I will also say that for Canva, the paid option is the one that gives you better printing files, but I didn't find any issue just using the free version of a PDF for this particular project. And then the publisher that I went with was Mixam, I believe is how it's pronounced. And I have to say they were pretty good. I knew nothing about Mixam or how to, select what I needed for a book. So I spent a lot of hours just kind of playing around with all the different options that they had for a zine and communicating with their support team, asking them questions about margins and bleeds and, all those different things that I know nothing about. And they were really good at responding quickly and giving me some really solid information. So definitely want to give them credit there. I think price-wise, it was also super reasonable. And the quality that I got of the zine was exactly what I was hoping for and what I expected. So once I had the design done from Canva, I uploaded it to Mixam, paid them, and they took care of the printing. I think it was a couple weeks later, they sent me the books back. And so I had them actually before my final deadline of when I actually needed them, but that was awesome. And I have to say, as I've said before, they came out exactly how I was hoping that they would, and I was really pleased with the end result. So I know this isn't necessarily a deep dive how-to, and no video I'm going to be able to fully go through all the intricacies of how the zine creation went. To that point, if you have any specific questions or comments, drop them down below and I will do my best to answer everyone's questions to the best of my knowledge and limited experience. But I'm definitely happy to help provide any guidance for those of you who are maybe doing this for the first time like I just was. But that said, if you enjoyed the video, do give me a thumbs up. And if you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, and that's going to keep you in the know for when the next video drops. But for now, I'm Colton. I'll see you in the next one.